What's up, guys? It's Johnny Valentine with Gain Solar coming to you live with another Farmhouse Fix-Up video. So today I am putting on the metal roof on my farmhouse barn. This is a pretty large project and I have never put on my own metal roof before, so I've been doing a lot of studying, trying to figure out what to do. This panel right here is about 16 by 51, and then I got another face, and of course I got to do the front of the building. So I'm going to show you some stuff that I've done here on this roof. I've worked on a ton of metal roofs, so even though this is technically a DIY project, I've worked on so many different metal roofs that I feel like I know a little bit more than the average DIYer, and I just want to show you some of the things I've done on this roof that have really helped me and made it what I think is going to be a more user serviceable and longer lasting roof. So let's get right into it. First thing I did is, and I'm showing you my feet walking around because I can walk anywhere on this roof I want and I don't have to worry about denting the roof or being a crumpled steel skin. If you've ever been on a regular roof, 29 gauge metal roof, you really got to be careful where you're walking. Even if it's sheathed in plywood, you can crush these seams. So I use 26 gauge metal. You really can't tell the thicknesses by looking at them, and most people don't know. But if you're ever thinking about if you're thinking about putting solar on your roof, if you're thinking about being able to get up on your roof and walk around on the roof, so serviceability, future solar, if it's on purlins, these are called purlins or laths, so this is where you install metal roofing on strips. Any of those reasons, I can't really think of one reason why you should use 29 gauge. So you know, it may cost me another 500 bucks for the metal to get this 29 gauge metal, but it just feels so much more solid under your feet, and it's going to last a lot longer because it's thicker metal. Now it is a little heavier. That's really the only disadvantage, is it's heavier to get up there. So first thing is, number one, use thick metal. Next thing I'm doing is I'm not using conventional, sorry for the noise guys, if there's wind noise, I'm not using conventional metal roofing screws. If you can see what I'm using, these are the ZXL wood binders. And this is just a totally different screw. So if this screw is installed correctly, according to the instruction manual, they guarantee it for 40 years, which is crazy. But you can see what the difference is with the screw. It's got a washer, but it's got a built-in washer head. So, you know, the neoprene washer is what usually degrades, UV degrades it. But once these things are installed, there's hardly any showing at all. Next thing I'm doing is I'm using a screw gun to install them. The reason I'm using a screw gun is because you can put it on screw feature and you can limit your torque. So when you limit the torque, you don't risk over tightening and mushrooming out this gasket. There's a sweet spot of tightness that comes with this gasket, and you want it to be compressed, but you don't want to kill it. You don't want to be squeezing it out the sides. So here's an example of the way it should look. You don't want to kill it. Once again, there's a manual for that. Next thing I'm doing is, if you've ever put up a metal roof, there's seams where the first part of the metal roof, where one panel ends and they overlap. You can see the seam right there. So what I've done is I've got butyl tape. This is butyl tape. I think it's rubber, but it's butyl tape you can get at the roofing place. And on a low slope roof, if you're worried about splashback, you can put butyl rubber on the top. This is tough rib. You can put it on the top, and when you put that down, you have your anti-siphoning channel right there, or siphoning channel, I can't remember what they call it, but that's the reason these corrugations don't perfectly match up. And then you have butyl, and that butyl is going to keep water from going up and going into my roof. It's a really good seal. And I've talked to metal roofers, they say you can go fix a metal roof and pull this off. It's been on there for 30 years and it looks like it did the day it went on. So this is good stuff. You can use this for a lot of different applications. Solar industry uses butyl tape in wide sizes. We use it for a lot of stuff. Third thing, or fourth, I don't know what tip this is. I'm using a synthetic underlayment. So I'm not using felt. I'm using this synthetic underlayment. It's lighter weight than felt. It's grippier than felt. And people just talk about how awesome it is. Now, it's grippy too when you step on it. I called 1 million people, asked 1 million people, called all different vendors. I asked my roofer friend. Everybody seems to think synthetic underlayments are all the same. So we're not really counting on it to protect the roof. We're putting it on the day of the install, so we're not asking it to protect the roof for, you know, months while we wait for the roofers to come, like you might do in a new construction. And we're also we're taking the rolls and running them down the roof as we put the metal on, but we're overlapping them. So you can see the amount of overlap I have between one sheet and the other. So the water would have to come up under here, and then back under. So it's kind of weaved. And you know, I'm really counting on the Butyl to do it. Other things I'm stapling the metal or the synthetic underlayment. And then I also got a chalk line so I can lay out my screw lines, because you got to snap a chalk line when you start losing your purlins. You can't see where they're at, and try to keep your screws straight and hit those purlins. And then the last thing I did is, you know, this building had extensive rot issues. Basically the whole roof was rotted out. If you can see the amount of slope I'm working with here, you know, the whole roof was rotted out, and I had to just basically push this roof off with a machine. So what we did is we came back and we stripped it with 2x4s instead of 1x. When you go strip with a dimensional 1x lumber that you're going to get at the, you know, Lowe's or Home Depot, you're going to be dealing with something that's actually about 3/4 of an inch wide, and that's just not enough. Pulling out the old tape here. So a 3/4 inch piece of wood. Oh, let's see if I can do this here. So you got a piece of 2x4 is actually 1.5, and a 1x4 is actually like 3/4 inch. So I just don't want to do that. I want to be able to get up on this roof and do whatever I want, monkey around, shoot deer. Yes, I'm going to shoot deer off this roof. There's a perfect spot over there across the creek. Look at that. You know they're walking through there. Anyway, I got to be able to get up here and clean this thing off and access it, and I cannot do that if I'm walking around on 3/4 inch boards that are on 2-foot centers. I mean, I don't want. Last thing I want to do is get up here and hear one of them crack. So, beefing the barn up, making it lighter weight, and you know, fixing a lot of trusses. You can see where I fixed trusses. I'm not going to go into big time detail about how I fixed all my trusses, because I don't really care to bring the trolls out. But I basically fixed the rotten parts and then beefed them up. And so, you know, I'm looking forward to having this roof on and having this 51 foot long by 1 million foot wide. No, it's like 51 by 30, I think, is the size of this barn. And I'm just really thankful, praising God, and trying to stay positive even though the work's super hard. Very thankful that I have all this. Someone asks, am I going to install a machine gun turret or just doing solar on it? Not going to be any solar on this one. So if you see, I've got some huge trees that I've got to limb. There's just a lot of trees right here, so this building is pretty much in the shade all the time. There's a creek down there, but I got pasture. I got lots of pasture that I'm going to put a ground mount for this. Probably put the solar in the battery and stuff in the barn, but I'm going to do a ground mount. But you could, I mean, you could totally, if you were thinking about putting solar up later, this would totally be the spot to do the solar, because this, like I said, 29 gauge metal roof. Don't even need to hit the 2x4. But if you were a solar guy and you were coming here, you'd say, oh man, he's got 2x4s under here. I'll just follow the screw lines and anchor right into there. Done. If it was 1x, probably not going to happen. If you wanted to, you could also use one of those new mounts. Because it's 26 gauge roofing, I wouldn't think twice about using an Everest, God, what are they called? I'll try to remember. Everest has got a new mini rail. Your mini rail just goes right into the ribs, no problem. The screws are special, so they go right into the metal, and that holds it. So there are a lot of different ways you could do something. You just really help yourself out by using 26 gauge instead of 29 gauge. So use a little thicker gauge metal, guys. This is Johnny Valentine with Gain Solar. Thanks for watching this video. I'm signing out.